Pacific Opera is a company that knows how to make an opera. We are an expert at putting on a show. But Missing wasn't just any show. Missing was a collaboration beyond anything we had engaged in. We couldn't have predicted that it would not only transform our artistic practice as a company, but it would transform how we worked in community. Missing is a story by Métis artist Marie Clement about a missing and murdered Indigenous woman. It's groundbreaking in opera because this story is now. But how can a settler organization tell the story of that community's suffering? Should we? This was more than collaboration. We would need a transformation in how we approached our work. Co-commissioned and co-produced, it was a collaboration with 2 opera companies over 2.5 years, something we know how to do and we've done before. But this collaboration was far from the Western business model of agents schmoozing over drinks and favors owed to further careers. This collaboration had to start with a genuine connection. A connection to this man, whose artwork we've been talking about in the ceiling, Kerry Newman. He debuted as an opera singer with Pacific Opera some 15 years ago. Now he's a well-respected artist, carver, and a member of the POV board. Genuine connection was essential to this transformative collaboration. Kerry was essential, but he knew we needed even more community connection. So enter Ron Rice, who's on that side. I won't do that right. Kerry introduced us to Ron Rice, a member of the Cowichan tribe who was experienced working in the Indigenous community. And he understood that we needed a variety of programming to be created around this opera. And these programs became a catalyst for conversation. For the first circle meeting, Ron invited cultural leaders, nonprofit administrators, advocates for women in community law, social work, education, anthropology, experts in trauma counseling, and elders. And they all sat with POV management and a few board members in that circle while elements of the work were presented, which led to discussion. Ron started simply with, "How did that make you feel?" And the circle took over from there. POV and Ron realized that night that not only did we need to support survivors who have experienced loss through violence, but we would also need to support those who were learning for the first time this truth that is part of Canadian history. And it wasn't just the audience that needed support. By the next day, the artists in rehearsal also asked for cultural support. Since then, the circle has broadened, and we find we are talking to partners about how to decolonize and indigenize our practices. This collaboration is rippling out and transforming governance, curatorial practice, and community building. In this situation, the opera company took a back seat. Ian Rye, pictured here, will tell you that opera companies are not usually so flexible, but it wasn't our gathering, and knowing that made all the difference. We spoke to those who were involved in this community and took direction from them. The credibility of our leaders, Ron and Kerry, were key. The final workshop presentation of this opera took place at the Carnegie Library on East Hastings. There was smudging for the artists, traditional drumming, a welcome, prayers, and personal stories were shared and witnessed by those present, all before the singing began. The community needs took center stage and occupied as much or more space than did the opera scenes that followed. Offering care before and after the show for all in attendance and the artists and crew was a transformative change in practice for us. Audiences were invited to smudge and have a cedar brushing ceremony after each performance, so as not to take the darkness from the show home with them. Western and Indigenous emotional support workers were also present. This poster, designed by Kelly Clifton, offered audiences a chance to share stories of loss and witnessing. People were able to pay respect to what we were all collectively experiencing. There are several signed posters, and they will tour with the show. It portrays the woman in the body of a sparrow representing the missing and murdered women, and the sparrow is in flight to signify hope. These 2 offstage collaborators brought to life the Gitxsan language used in the show. There are only about 1,000 speakers left, and Vince is one. Michael is learning from him. And they helped a bunch of singers who were much more comfortable in Italian and German to bring this ancient language into the world of the opera house. This shot is from the opening night in Vancouver. Both the Vancouver and Victoria opening were a private showing for the families of missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls. This photo includes many of those faces, as well as those who were our collaborators in the creation of this unique piece. Collaboration transformed the organization. Individually, our leadership and staff, and our audience. This was a game changer. But I want to talk now about how we reach out to community from these learnings. Transformation moving forward, which led me to reach out to Ron Rice, who introduced me to the Aboriginal Nation Education Division. I didn't want to go to them with my old model of, I have a school show with opera singers, would you like it? Instead, I went to them and I said, I have all kinds of resources and I would love to share. What would be of benefit to your students and teachers? And Director Nella Nelson had an idea for me. She arranged a meeting with 2 teachers in charge of the Sacred Circle group, Indigenous youth who are making theater. So Sacred Circle is telling a story given to them by Butch Dick. It's in its 2nd year. The youth come from the whole district. They do all the props, sets, lighting, everything. What did they need from us? Some technical advice on material and practical stagecraft techniques, like what material for this drop and how to hang it. Here's our tech director, Mark Lee, with some of the kids in Sacred Circle. He's been a consultant for them and a mentor. I was also asked to go and talk about Western vocal technique for projection and voice care. When asked how Canadians can make up for the past, Virgil Sampson from the Tsarlip Nation said at a Knowledge Keepers gathering, "Don't walk in front of us, don't walk behind us, walk beside us." Rene drew this for me last January when I told him about the work I was doing at Pacific Opera, and he wanted me to remember to always start with vision. He said, people think you always start a project with passion, but vision is really the key, and he asked me to always be sure to share that piece of information. At Pacific Opera, I think we are transforming and decolonizing our community practice with vision. It's like building a canoe. This Métis canoe maker told me you must listen deeply to the material you work with, and you must move with patience. The birch bark, the cedar ribs, you work in collaboration with nature. So when I go into community, I know the first thing I need to do is just ask, what do you need? And then I listen deeply. Thank you.
Thank you.